Welcome. I'm Chris Jones. This is where believers and skeptics alike are invited to embark on a journey of faith, philosophy, and life from a different perspective. Whether we are joined by an insightful guest or we just jump into the deep end, this exploration promises to challenge us all. Are we getting it right? This is Spiritual Hot Sauce. Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer was famously quoted as saying, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." He was quoting the Bhagavad Gita, but he quoted it wrong. But yet his statement is accurate and insightful. If you don't know who Oppenheimer was, he was the scientific director of the Manhattan Project, and he and his team on July 16th, 1945, detonated the first atomic bomb, changing the course of humanity forever. The quote that comes from the Bhagavad Gita is from chapter 11, verse 32. And if you don't know what that book is, it's a conversation between Arjuna, a warrior prince who is facing some very difficult challenges and in need of wisdom, and Sri Krishna, an incarnation of God, who is there to direct him. But in this particular passage, this part of the conversation, Arjuna keeps pushing in on Sri Krishna, wanting to know what he is really like and what his true nature is. And Sri Krishna is being very vague, and as Arjuna keeps pushing in, he finally gets to the point in chapter 11, verse 32, where he says, "I am death. I am destroyer of worlds. I am time." That's a different kind of statement than what Oppenheimer said. "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." He was saying, I've become like God. I mean, does that not sound like a tale from monothology, an ancient text where a great king wanted a bomb so big and destructive it could destroy a city? And Oppenheimer told the king, "I can do it." And the king said, "Make it so," and gave him men, and they developed such a bomb. And the bomb was used and dropped on 2 cities. And Oppenheimer realized what he had done, and his heart was heavy. Are we not warned in monothology? In Sumerian mythology, you have Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Enkidu pushes Gilgamesh to slay Humbaba, which then Enkidu pays the price for by the gods. And Gilgamesh's path is changed. Ravana from the Ramayana wanted to put his throne above the gods, and he paid the price. In Norse mythology, Loki won't stop pushing in on the gods, and he pays the price. And then in Greek mythology, Icarus puts on wings of wax made by his father and goes where the gods go and flies and goes too close to the sun and his wings melt and he falls into the sea and he drowns. In the biblical tradition, Lucifer wants to put his throne above God's. And in our origin story, the Garden of Eden, how is it that the serpent gets us to take the fruit that is the poison for humanity? He tells us, you will be like God. We are warned and warned, but yet Oppenheimer almost prophetically manifests exactly what the warnings are. And what is the warning? We always think of it as in a grandiose way, but the truth is it's nothing more than selfish pride and unchecked ambition. It reminds me of the story I told in episode 5, the true story of the woman that manifested evil and brought suffering. Why would she do this? I'm not sure of her motive, but what allowed her to do that, why she justified it, would be a self-serving pride, her ambition, feeling like she had the right to sit in judgment of others, because that's kind of what pride does. It's what the warning is. We put our throne, our chair, above other people's, which symbolizes where God sits. And when you do that, it brings suffering to other people. I don't know what it is about us sometimes that when we approach humanity, we want humanity to serve us and pedestal us rather than us serve humanity. From the perspective of like the outside universe looking in, humanity is an entity, and we are part of it. We all have a purpose. Our purpose is to serve humanity. That is our purpose. Serving ourself goes against that. Serving ourself comes from self-serving pride. We talk about our compass and north being emotions and south being discipline. Self-serving pride comes from our emotions. When you let that into your heart, your cardia of how you choose, you will always manifest the cancer into the body of humanity. And right now, for whatever reason, there is a lot of cancer in the body of humanity, which means self-serving pride is okay. What happened? How did we move so far away from this intrinsic information, this wisdom? I think it's a breakdown in how we transfer wisdom, that the transference of the natural order of things of us isn't happening. I'll kind of show you what I mean. I was watching a period piece. It was a show. And in this show, it was before even we had newspapers, before any of that. It was just collective community. In this community, they had gotten together for a holiday. And the people that could play instruments brought their instruments, and they sang and they played and they talked. And they had a good time. And I realized that how we used to experience music was very communal. There was something about we took part of it. It was harmony in us. Now we have music that is created that is so much more technologically superior from a musician standpoint. It is polished, perfectly put together, and it just sounds amazing. It's incredibly emotive, and we have an experience emotionally. However, that experience is not connected to the people anymore. Where we talk, where we communicate, where we're a part of that in that experience. We've isolated that experience and made that experience about us that we can have anywhere at any time with a little AirPod in our ear. That's kind of symbolic of where we are and what has happened, this breakdown, because it's in those moments of where we get together in community, where I like to think of them as the gray hairs, this wisdom they've gathered, they pass it down to the younger people. In community, in natural community. It's the dinner table where there are people there that are older, where it used to be much bigger than just the immediate family. You had grandma there, you had aunt such and such there, uncle such and such there, and you had all these extended people that would come together and they would sit down and eat together, and the younger people would have questions, and this was an opportunity where they would give them their wisdom. That's kind of broken down. We have changed everything for where we went from a newspaper to a television to internet and now to a phone. We have made entertainment tailored for us on mass scale. And here's the problem with that. Now we've eliminated or broke down how the gray hairs communicate to us, especially in those coming up needing wisdom, and we've replaced them with influencers. They look the part, they sound the part, except the gray hairs have integrity in place. They're giving information, true wisdom that helps you, that gives you better understanding because they just want you to have a better life. Influencers are giving you information because they want you to like, click, subscribe, and share. So they look the part, they sound the part, they're engaging, but at the same time, there's no real wisdom there. There's no value. And because of the way it's delivered, we get to this tailor-made information flow to us that doesn't have the wisdom in it that makes us feel special. And it makes us feel like we understand and we know in a way that no one else does. It really is tailored that helps us create a throne of self-serving pride. Now, I can sit in judgment of others and tell them why they are wrong, what they are doing wrong, and what they should be thinking, what they should believe. We are having this pumped into us, telling us what we think, and we never sit back and look in the mirror, like in the last episode, and figure out what we actually believe. It's this breakdown of the system, the transference of knowledge. And when you break down that transference of knowledge, you will always prophetically manifest the warnings that come from monothology. And now you have these influencers that are driven not by getting you information, but by getting paid, by being served by humanity, by becoming important. They want you to like, subscribe, and share. That's what they want. The information they are giving, it doesn't matter if it's right or not right. What is important to them is they get you to engage, the longer they can watch. I mean, if you ever have just some time, you want to do some deep diving in a rabbit hole. I mean, I have a podcast. There is a tremendous amount of information out there about how to keep someone engaged, how to get someone to click on your content that you're sharing, how to monetize it, how to make it more. There's nothing in there about integrity. I mean, that goes back somewhat to the problem of Oppenheimer. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. That's what happens when you monetize science. I mean, you go rushing to be the first to market and you never say, hey, let's pump the brakes. Let's figure out if we should do this, if this is correct, if there's going to be a problem, because it becomes about being first to market so you can monetize it, so you can be important. There's a very self-serving motive in there that never pumps the brakes, which is kind of what happened with Oppenheimer. And I forget all the details, but it was back in the 20s or the 30s, there was a problem with gasoline engines. They knocked really bad. And the buyers, it put them off. They felt like something was wrong with it that was knocking so bad. Well, there was an engineer that was messing with it and found that if they added lead to the gasoline, it stopped the knock. And then buyers was okay with the gasoline engine converting, and that's what helped propel the gasoline engine in auto sales. But the problem ended up being this. But putting lead in the gasoline led to about, 4.5 million to 6.5 million people's deaths because of the cardiovascular problems it created. And it did. We are still dealing with that. Not to mention that the entire world's population's IQ dropped 7 points from this. There was a study done about it, which is why they took lead out of gasoline. Again, it goes back to rushing to make things happen at the marketplace so you can capture the share and create money. It's self-serving pride. It's when you see your persona as all there is, and you never learn who you are and what your purpose is in life. And our purpose in life is to serve humanity, to make it better for us, to leave it better, so those coming behind us have a better experience than we have. But yet we failed to see that warning because we've broke down our natural flow of this wisdom, and now it's not there. Now we've replaced it with shiny and new and cutting edge. We all want to have our ears tickled. We all like new cutting edge stuff. Did you hear that? It sounds outrageous, and it sounds correct. I know somebody that went down kind of a rabbit hole, and they started listening to influencers and talking about a certain hate group in the United States. And they made it sound really bad. And it was really bad, but they made it sound like it was contagious, like it was spreading. But as he gave more time to this, the algorithms fed him more content like this. And it got worse and worse until that is what was going into his cardia, his heart, the center, the essence of who he was. And it was impacting and affecting how he behaved and how he chose. Jesus says what goes into your heart, the abundance of your heart, your mouth will speak. In other words, you'll start talking like that. Your mannerisms, how you think, how you behave will start to reflect that. And when he went down the rabbit hole, he started to believe that this was a prevalent problem and it was kind of taking over. And so what happens when you are facing this kind of poison, this kind of evil in humanity, you start believing it and you start changing to kind of combat that. Now, your ideas of what's in your heart, like Jesus was saying, is reflective in your mannerisms. Most of our communication as human beings is not our words, but it's our mannerisms. We pick up on some pretty impressive communication of ideas just through mannerisms. And now his behaviors are manifesting some of these ideas, and he begins to change. However, the integrity of the content isn't good. So now he's given this false idea of what the world is actually like, which is nothing like the world he is experiencing. Well, I happen to know him, and I care about him. I want the best for him. And I said, wait a second, do we really believe that this hate group is that widespread? So I did a quick deep dive and found out that less than what, I forget it was, but it was below 1% of all the United States population even believe this way. And in the area we are, I said, you're probably never even met anybody that thinks like that, but yet your whole personality is changing to combat something that you'll never have to even be around. See, I was giving him wisdom of how to have a better life. So because in self-serving pride of putting his throne above everyone else's, with that content in his heart, which the integrity was not correct, he starts making judgments about humanity and himself. And if he's not careful, it will lead him down a path where he starts manifesting the poison and he creates a problem. That's how it happens. Now you've got all of these people that have this tailor-made content coming at them, but it's delivered to them in such a way that makes them feel like they know what other people don't know, and it really does stimulate that selfish pride. And now you have a breakdown of where their wisdom of how to discern knowledge and what to do with it is gone. They're self-serving now instead of serving humanity. But that's what's going into their heart. Our purpose has always been to serve humanity. That's our purpose. And if you don't know that, know it now. You will either serve your purpose and die to self, or you'll serve yourself and die to your purpose. But you can't do both. And if you serve yourself, you are choosing to put your throne above everyone else's. And you are sitting where God sits. And we are taught in these warnings that when you do that, you become the cancer of humanity. You become the poison. You manifest suffering. Our purpose is always to serve humanity, not help ourselves to it. But when you serve your purpose, that's when you find your peace. Thanks for joining me here on Spiritual Hot Sauce. I'd love to hear from you. So please reach out with questions, comments, and or concerns. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and review us. You can follow us on Facebook for updates and information. And if you enjoy the flavor of the sauce, then please share it with others. I would appreciate that. We'll see you next time.